So, second recording, February 7th, to replace some of the class time lost. So, what I want to show you here is the 4 artboards. This should be similar to what you did for exercise 2. This is for exercise 3. They're all 600 by 600 pixels. If they're too close for you, we can use the artboard tool to move them around a bit. Give yourself some extra space. What I want to focus on is the type tool and changing type from type to shapes or paths with anchor points. So I'm going to go into the type tool. Please check out these other tools as well, but I'm going to just focus on the type tool right now. It starts off and it says lorem ipsum. This is a fake kind of Latin that is used in typography as an example text. So that's just it's a historical precedent of a kind of a fake language that is used to demonstrate type. That's what the lorem ipsum comes from. I'm increasing the size of it. I like the shortcut key a lot. I hold Shift, Command, and I use the period and the comma to make my type larger and smaller. I can also open up the character panel, which is something that you might will have up a lot when you work with type. You could also go to Essentials, and we could go to Typography. And that might be a useful thing to do here, where we have the character and paragraph panels available, along with the color picker and color guide. I'm going to hide these just so we have a little bit more room on the screen. So I'm going to just start with one letter. I'm going to start with this L, and I want to show you how to change it into outline. So now I could grow it wider, smaller, whatever, stretch it. If I hold Shift, I can make it larger while constraining its proportions. Command 0 to set my composition full screen. After I highlight this and I want to change this into outlines, I need to go to Type. You can see a lot of options with Type because you can do a lot with typography in Illustrator. But I want to go to, where is that? Okay, Create Outlines, which also would be Shift Command 0 or Shift Command O, excuse me. And what that is going to do is going to make your type into a shape. And when we click on the direct selection tool, you can see now it has anchor points, just like any other shape. Now, if I were to go back to lorem ipsum here, highlight that, type, create outlines, the same thing happens, but this is going to be automatically grouped together. Okay, so I would need to object ungroup to move individual, I'm going to use the selection tool to move whole letters, and then I'm going to go in, I'm going to switch from the L to the M. The M seems more fun. To my direct selection tool to click on and move anchor points. You'll see there's a little, I have the Creative Cloud Edition because I have a subscription. This stuff, you won't see this stuff. This is a nice feature that exists in later versions that allow you to change curves a little bit more fluidly with the direct selection tool. Don't worry about it if you don't see some of the things I'm seeing here. It should be very similar. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm moving anchor points. And this is kind of the approach I want you to take for the exercise. So let's say I wanted to work with this M. I wanted to increase this, holding Shift, increasing the size. I want you to think about really increasing the size of some of the letter forms. So you are thinking about the whole composition. You are not just putting lots of small letters into your square. You're really thinking about figure versus ground and trying to create interesting integrated situations. Or even in the clear figure versus ground, you could have something like this. You know, the M is quite large on that background. And the letters do not have to always look like letters. You can change them to look like I could change this M where it barely resembles an M anymore. That is fine. You can change the forms around quite a bit. Something interesting, I don't know if you just caught what I did there, but this is a really helpful tool. I'm going to click one anchor point. I'm going to hold Shift, click another anchor point, and then I'm going to pull, and so now I'm moving both at the same time. So I'm extending the whole letter. Instead of just clicking and dragging one out, I can click Shift to select both and then drag them together. This is something that I went over last class, but let's say you did this because a couple people are out. So let me see let's say you have this situation. Okay, this is your composition. Hopefully it's a little bit more balanced than this, but this is overlapped. And there are ways I can cut these off using Pathfinder. But I think the easiest thing to do in this situation is to place a rectangle on top. Okay, in layers, that rectangle has to be on top of that shape. I highlight both of these things. So both have to be highlighted. Everything is highlighted. And the rectangle is on top. And this rectangle is going to be our stamp or our mask. And we're going to go into Object, Clipping Mask, Make. You could also use Command 7 as the shortcut. And that is going to trim. Okay, so that's a really helpful tool. It's going to contain everything here within a clipping mask. So if you want to go back and edit it, you need to release that clipping mask. So you can go to Clipping Mask Release to take that away. But that should be a helpful tool for trimming things. That's also how, and I'll do a demo on this in class on Tuesday, how you would put a photograph into text, for example, or a photograph into a shape. You would use the shape as a clipping mask with an image. Okay, so that's the basics of exercise 3. Let me go back to my announcements of the day and just see type tool editing anchor points, because that's really all I wanted to cover. I also thought about covering gradient mesh. I don't want to add another thing onto this video. And I think we're still, we're all still finishing exercise 2, just beginning exercise 3. I think we can wait. Gradient mesh is a fun tool. If I just type it in, we're not going to do anything as complicated as what's going to come up here. But it's a tool you should all know the basics of, and then you can learn more if you'd like to. But it's how you can make stuff. I guess this is a simple example. This is more complicated than we'll do. But basically, you create a wire mesh, and that helps you shade with vector art. So vector art, can be difficult to do shading through drawing and painting tools. But you can use the gradient mesh tool to do so. And I'll be doing an example a little bit more like this, something not quite as complicated as some of these, but something cool to look into if you like this kind of hard edge style. Definitely something to do your own research and tutorials on. All right, so the other thing I want to mention before the end of this video is about Project 1. So there are 4 projects in the class that are more grade points in the exercises, and I hope they take a little more conceptual development. Technically, they may not be any harder than the exercises, but I want you to be thinking about them more and doing drafts and such with these projects. And I'll talk more about it next week, but I want you just to start thinking. Those of you who are into sketching, you could sketch ideas. But I want to introduce it to get the gears moving, just get us to start thinking about this. You'll want to choose a movie or a couple different movies you want to work with and start thinking of simple ways to depict that movie in an image. And, there are a lot of these online. It's maybe going to be a little hard to do your own original one. You can get inspiration from other ones, but I do want you to try to tread your own path. even if it's slightly derivative of something you've seen before. Obviously, there's going to be something based on that movie, so there's going to be some image from that movie. Um, but I want you to try to think of something unique and something simple. Um, and here's examples from this Tumblr site that was kind of a thing a bunch of years ago. It's not functioning. I mean, it's up, but it's not updated anymore. But it has a ton of these movie posters. This one's pushing minimal. There's a lot going on here. I love this ambiguous figure ground. Yes. Here we have a movie, not a movie poster, but a concert, like a rock concert poster from Jason Munn, who I linked before. Really simple imagery. We got this contrast between the sun and the umbrella. It's quite clever. Gail Anderson is a famous designer. These are two play posters. Some student work. A lot of you are probably familiar with both of these movies. I would have told that in retrospect, that thin stroke isn't working that well here. But otherwise, a really strong poster. Designed some other really strong previous student work from other classes. So you can see they're picking out one or two elements from a film that they've enjoyed or that they saw recently, and trying to think about figure ground and the whole composition. So not just placing like one small thing in the composition, trying to think about the whole composition. And if it is one smaller element, it's because that element is interacting with like a landscape. Here, like, this simple edge turns this all into ocean. Here, these two objects appear to be in a sky. I also included some artists that I enjoy that work with text. Not a direct relation to direct relationship to this project, but I thought they could be inspirational. Here we have kind of an onomatopoeia, kind of nonsense image that's made of all these kind of sound. How would I describe all these words? I don't know. They're all kind of not attractive ways maybe to speak. Or not clear ways of speak. That's better. So it's kind of chaotic when you look at it because of all the colors, and the text is saying the same thing. So I enjoy that there's a relationship between the text, what it says, and how the text is painted. Same thing here in a different way, where there's a sense of space created with the word see. Bits and pieces put together to present a semblance of a whole. Is the artist talking about the text, about the bricks here, about art making in general? This was on the wall of the Walker Art Center for a while. Same thing. This was around a show from this artist, who's an artist that uses mostly text. Projection from Jenny Holzer. Reflected type. Some fun examples of design and illustration. So the idea of building up letters from smaller pieces. Making letters out of other stuff. So using what appears to be a bunch of different products as a background or as a here there's an interesting shift between foreground and background, or figure and ground. I thought this was funny. Same thing here, where the type is, there's something pictorial happening with the type, the way that it's placed in the composition. I think this could relate to the minimal movie poster in terms of the really simple, sad face. We can, the yellow implies the emoji, and then we have the frown. This is also from Ellen Lupton's text that I mentioned in the last video recording. Exercises with letters and using the way letters are organized to say something about the word, or reflecting the word and how the word is laid out. I think that's a clear way to say that. another example of interaction between image and type. So feel free to just email me any questions. I'm not asking you to have exercise 3 done on Tuesday, but it would really help us if you've worked on it, if you've at least watched this, started thinking about your movie poster, made some sketches, thought of what film you're interested in doing. Because we're already supposed to, based on my original schedule, we're already supposed to be into this first project. It's okay. I think we can catch up. I will continue to come to class early to help anyone who wants extra help with the software, just has questions or wants feedback on exercises. So I think we'll still be fine in the schedule. I don't want you to stress out too much, but I want you to come in and find some extra time to work on some classwork. Excuse me. So everyone stay warm and safe. I'm going to look back at the schedule one more time to make sure I'm not missing anything. No, there will be a handout on Project 1 that I'll show you next week. And yeah, that's it for now. See you all soon, I hope. Bye.